I told myself a story. That's just who I am. I'm shy. And you can overcome anything once you just change the story.
Roy Coughlan is a seasoned serial entrepreneur with an impressive track record of founding 20 companies across 5 countries. In today's episode, we dive into how to overcome the crippling fear of public speaking, how to grow your podcast, and the power of building a fulfilling business.
Everyone's got something that they can help the world with. And if you can help one person, it's not just that one person, they're probably helping their household, and that could have a ripple effect as well.
As a business podcast coach and host, Roy has successfully launched and driven 6 podcasts to the top echelons of the industry, with all consistently ranking in the top 5% and 4 reaching the prestigious top 0.5%.
Sometimes I cringe when I hear the feedback of some people, and I always make sure that I talk to the person later and kind of tell them why I thought it was good and make them feel better instead of crushing their confidence.
In addition to his podcasting prowess, Roy is the co-founder of braingym.fitness, a platform dedicated to engaging cognitive abilities and empowering individuals to optimize their mental performance. He's also the co-founder of VA.World, where he specializes in connecting clients with the perfect virtual assistant to meet their diverse needs. Roy, welcome to Authority in the Wild.
Thank you very much, Gabe, for having me. Looking forward to it.
Likewise, especially because you describe your younger self like a person that was paralyzed by fear. Can you take us back to that moment that were putting you in that situation, especially because now you're a prolific podcaster and business owner, but as you know, it was not always the case.
Well, I know, saying paralyzed by fear makes me extremely shy. And when I was younger, even going into a shop was a thing that I wasn't comfortable with. So, get the friend to go in and buy sweets. In the States, people are like 21 when they're drinking. In Ireland, it was 18. So I was a good boy. I waited till I was 18 to start drinking. I wasn't one, drinking at 14 or something like that. But even when I was going out with friends, I didn't feel comfortable going up to the bar. When it was my round, I'd give the money to my friend and he'd go up and get the rounds. And that was just a thing that and I look back and I'd like slap myself into the head, but it was just a thing that I was. I studied construction economics and management, and then I worked for the biggest mechanical contractor in Ireland, and I worked my way up to running big multi-million-pound jobs. And the one part I hated was the meetings. So like there could be 20 people around the table, the client, we were doing a Johnson & Johnson project. There was builders, architects, and my voice would go. The night before, like procurement and everything, I was buying massive equipment, no problem at all. Picking up the phone or just talking one-on-one to people, no problem. But group settings like that terrified me. And and I've had a lot of businesses. So even running businesses wasn't a problem for me. It wasn't, and like I wasn't afraid. I've done parachute jump on my own. I've done a load of things. It's not that I'm fair of everything. It was just the speaking was the main thing. So I went to Poland. I'm 18 years in Poland. And basically, I was doing very well. I had about 14 people on my books. I had a lot of syndicates. I built apartments, 30 apartments. I had housing projects. I was managing over 200 properties. And when the crash happened, it took a while to come across. I still was doing okay. But the syndicate members who were way bigger than me, they were like some were 10 million plus. They got in trouble and I thought it was going to come right. So I started putting in my own money into some of them, like that we had a mortgage. And in the end, the whole lot came across. I got wiped out and I was personally liable for 5 million. I got through that and I'm going to get to how I overcame my fear because it's all part of the story. Eventually cleared the decks for that. I'd had over 100 court cases. Went to an event, What's Your Quest? And at that event, I said, I'm going to expose all the corruption that I've seen in my life because it was like, this is like not good. Because I know, unfortunately, some people throw in the towel. I said, I don't like this. But I also saw 2 brilliant speakers. There was Eric Edmates and Vishen Lakiana. And I was like, they are incredible speakers. I said, I need to be a good speaker to get my message out because otherwise people aren't going to listen to me. Came back and I said, I'm going to join Toastmasters. So being the strong, confident person that I was, I had to bring people with me to make me feel safe. I went to the meeting. I said, this is great. And they said, we don't have time to join it. And I was too shy to go back on my own. And the only reason I joined the Toastmaster was a new club opened. It was opening in a university. And I said, okay, everyone's going to be new. I'm going to just join. Went there. They said, do you want to sign up? Yeah, I signed up. Do you want to do a speech next week? I just thought that was normal. So I agreed to do the first speech the next week. As it turns out, a new club is formed by existing clubs. So experienced Toastmasters and new Toastmasters. And my very first speech, I prepared for it. And as I was speaking, I was terrified. I was terrified because you can prepare in your room. But then when you're 20 eyeballs looking at you, or 30 eyeballs, I can't remember how many was there, but it was, it was a room full of people. And at one stage, I kind of paused and just kind of froze and then overcame it. And the pieces of paper, like they kind of give you a review. So at that time, they encourage people to give you like a comment on what you do. All the experienced Toastmasters gave me, you overcame the moment of silence, very good speech, blah, blah, blah. And all the new people just, where was the entertainment? Couldn't hear you at the back, like they abused me. But that didn't affect me. That kind of was like, I was laughing at that. And I ended up using that situation to enter a competition a few years later and got into the final of 5 countries by actually explaining my experience of why you should never do that. Because if somebody is shy, you shouldn't attack it. You should make them feel better. And what I did is I joined the original Toastmasters Club. I formed my own Toastmasters Club. I became a coach. I became DTM, which is Distinguished Toastmaster, after 3, and just entered loads of competitions, done an open mic, TEDx, done open comedy. And I was speaking at Mind Valley actually, and I wasn't afraid. So I went from terrified to competent speaker. And I've done 1,700 podcasts with at least 100 lives. So what I tell people is we have a crutch in life. We tell ourselves a story. I told myself a story. That's just who I am. I'm shy. And it's like you can overcome anything once you just change the story.
Absolutely. But what's fascinating about your story is the fact that you are shy when it comes to speaking, but in the same time, you start your basic entrepreneurial journey at just 9 years old, like washing cars. What's the difference between speaking and actually asking for the sale, right?
I don't know. It's a strange one, because even like I used to go around at 11, I done newspapers and I built up my own round. So a guy that was near enough was like one of the biggest guys in the city for the newspaper. So I got an area and I'd go around the houses. Do you want to buy the Echo, which was a newspaper, local newspaper? Do you want a Sunday paper? Do you want a magazine or whatever? And I had no problem with that. Then at 14, with the money from that, I bought a lawnmower. I'd go around asking people if they wanted their grass cut. It was a strange kind of shyness. I don't know. I don't understand it. So there was times that, and even a phone caller, even I say on a construction site, I could see people that would be like, sometimes you'd have a foreman of a builder, like a big building company, and they just abuse people. They just scream at them. And as soon as somebody tried that with me, I would never tolerate it. I'd always stick up for myself. Then they'd back off because they would know I'm shy, but I wasn't weak. And then they would never abuse me again. But if I could be walking along with them and they'd be abusing somebody next to them. So it was a strange kind of shyness that I had. I don't know. And obviously it would be great to go back and kind of shake yourself and say, hey, what are you doing? But, you just kind of, we react to how the situation that we're in. I don't know why I could have selective shyness, I suppose you could call it.
Yeah, that can be one thing. The other thing might be, I don't know, something that might happen. For example, I know about myself, like, because I resonate a lot with your story. I started as a very shy person. For example, if you're a group setting in school, I was the person that was isolated or always listening, but not speaking out. And same later, like in order to be able to speak on camera, I did around 12 weeks of coaching with someone to help me be able to stand in front of a camera and not going crazy. And after that, I was able to start a podcast without even dreaming of it. And I tried to track back personally, and I was seeing some patterns, like some, for example, person in my life trying to say to me, like, that narrative, like telling me that, oh, you're so shy. And I was keep on hearing that. And then I start probably, like you said, to say to myself that I'm shy. Other person tell me, oh, you're so introverted. And I was like, am I introverted? And I start to say that to myself. That's happened to you? Or because apart from like you telling to yourself, maybe someone like inserted that narrative into your brain?
Well, there's a few things. One, there was in the family, there was a lot of shyness on the mother side. So for my great grandmother, who was alive till I think I was 11, so I had a good relationship with her. She went out of the house from when she was 40. She lived to, I think, 86 or 87. She went out of the house twice. So she was extremely shy. A lot of the people in that side of the family were very shy. You know, if you're around people that are shy, they're not exactly encouraging to go. And the other thing is the school. And it's strange because on the speaking podcast, I talked about loads of people, the teachers. And I remember, like, you're learning a language, you're learning your English, you're trying to prove. They're making you stand up and read. You're stuttering, you're spluttering, you're shy, and people are laughing at you. So it's not a good experience. And in history, I remember I was 13. So that's when you go into the second stage of school. And I just didn't like this teacher. It wasn't that I wasn't trying. He was aggressive, abusive. And I came last. I think it was 17% I got. I got last in class. And he called me up. And in front of the class, he says, my grandmother would do better. And she's been dead 10 years. And like class break, they're all laughing. And they're just looking at me. And they're taking the piss afterwards of that. What happened is I got a different teacher 3 years later and started getting 100%. And I was so I realized as well, sometimes it's the personality of a teacher and how you react with them, how you engage with it. But I know that affected me. And talking to a lot of people, a lot of the times it's the teacher that actually crushes someone's confidence or insults you, and you just bury it deep down and you don't know where it's coming from. Could it be that? I don't know. Because I mean, I think it was a combination, because like the shop thing would have been before that episode. So I'm not sure, but definitely that didn't help.
Absolutely. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people that are listening to us right now can resonate with that, because indeed, school system and family members or even friends or other colleagues in school or early years can have this negative influence on us by pointing a finger or laughing or whatever. And if someone is still in that situation, they are crippled by fear, they are not able to put themselves out there. And especially now in the age of AI, where showing yourself on video probably is one of the best way to build authority and so on. Can you guide what you did in order to overcome that? Like maybe took us back to the first week when you start speaking on Toastmasters or trying to put yourself out there and so on. What someone that is in that situation can do?
I think one is a mindset, because I made the decision that I need to do this. So then I made a concrete effort. So I started watching TEDx talks. I started getting books on that, a TEDx book. Robert Kennedy, there was a book on that, on his public speaking, done a course on it. And that was one of the things, an online course that I started doing. And the other thing is, like in Toastmasters, and that's an international thing. So usually in most cities, there'll be something like that. But there's kind of table topics, which is you're just called up to talk for 2 minutes and you haven't a clue what they're going to ask you. So you go up and you talk. And I ended up being very good at that, putting humor and everything. And you get a ribbon, and I was winning that a lot. I'm just getting comfortable, just being silly. And, instead of being serious, and I think doing that. And then there was another thing, and this shows the shyness was kind of, there's a thing called evaluation. So a speaker goes up and then somebody evaluates the speech later, kind of halfway through the meeting or at the second half of the meeting. And I was afraid to do that for about 6 months. And when I started doing it, I was spotting so much more that most people wouldn't. Like I'd spot someone's feet like that, or I'd see a sway, or so I was kind of analyzing a load of things, and people started asking me to be their evaluator, which rarely happened. Then I was getting people asking me to be their mentor. So I was like, I was still terrified kind of doing, a speech 6 or speech 10 or whatever, but I just kind of said, all right, I'm doing it, and then I recorded everything. I was watching it. What I encourage people is sometimes look at it in silent. So then you're looking at your body language, then put the phone on, just listen to it, and you can see, does it work? There's a few things you can do. And it's just be surrounded by people that support you. Because like I remember when I was practicing my speech, I tried to do it in front of my mom. And like I have a fantastic relationship with my mom. And she just broke down laughing. And I knew I couldn't do it in front of her, because it was like, and I went over, at the time my grandmother was alive, and I went over and I practiced with her. I don't know, did I come back from Ireland or something? There was some speech I'd done anyway. And and she said, why am I doing that? That I was hopping for, some was like, that was the best feedback I could have got. It was like you're shifting. And when you're speaking in front of good people that are like 5 years in the game, they're really giving you good feedback. So sometimes there's people that are giving you feedback. They're just trying to praise you. And that's not, and then they might say, oh, you could have moved in the stage at this level, or you could have done this. Whereas I was giving as much feedback in a nice, positive way to make you better. I appreciated when people done that to me as well. So if you're, maybe there's not Toastmasters, but if you're with people that can kind of say, or just say, could you look at this video and give me some feedback? They'll just say different things. Like at one stage I was doing a tug thing, and I did that on the open mic comedy, and about 5 to 10 people came up and told me about it that I knew that had came to support me on it. And I was like, why am I doing that? It was obviously, I was nervous because, I mean, with a comedy, Toastmasters is different. No one's going to go, oh, that was terrible. They're trying to give you, I mean, some people do, but they're trying to support you. Whereas in a comedy that you're just going into an audience, they're going to heckle you. They're going to, if you don't do it. And that was the feedback that I got. And I started paying attention to that. And it's just watch the little things. And, even if you find doing a speech for 5 to 10 minutes is hard, do the topics, even play games with your friends that you're, like there's kind of mime games, there's like where you're talking about something without mentioning it. If you're doing these things with your friends and you're doing it in front of 5 or 6 people, you're technically public speaking and you're in a comfortable position, and then you get good, and then you kind of learn tricks and learn stories and stuff like that. And it's just a case of that. And even preparing speech, sometimes people, I couldn't do a speech. And what I would say is some people memorize it. I couldn't do that. It's like memorize a full speech for whether it's a 7-minute speech. I said, that's not for me. That takes too long. I mean, I've often interviewed people that done a TEDx, and they'd say, I practiced it 100 times, 200 times. I was like, I don't have time to do that. But what I would do with anything I was doing is like, I'd know the introduction, I'd have my bullet points, and I'd know my conclusion. And that's all you want. And sometimes I'd go back, I sit down and I go, I forgot this. I forgot to say this. Well, nobody knows that. It's only I know that. And it doesn't matter. It's okay. As long as you kind of get the main message across, you know what you're talking about. And what I would say to anybody that's kind of going on stage, don't make it about you. Don't make it about the ego. Try to bring value to the listeners, and then they'll feel that, they'll know that. So if you're coming to share something about your experience in life or whatever skill set you've got, that you're going there and you're trying to touch them and help them that they can move forward, then people will appreciate what you've just said. And the feedback from that, when people come up to you and thank you, it's a nice feeling. And like when I did the TEDx open mic, it was like 5 minutes or something, and it was I don't know what happened. It was in Poland, but it was they were doing a Polish one and an English one, and maybe somebody pulled out or something, I don't know, but they got in contact and he said, hey, will you do it? So I had only a few days to prepare. I said, grand, because that was my thing. Don't say no anymore. Just say grand, good, yeah, I'm up for it. And it went well. I just I even changed something on the moment because I spotted something, and I kind of made a joke at the start, which went down well. And as I was in the break, loads of people came up to me and said, that was fantastic. That was really enjoyable. That was the best one there and all this. And what happened with me, it was a shame. I was going to get it recorded, and the guy said, no, we've all the professional cameras and everything, don't worry. And what they said later, a couple of weeks later, yeah, we don't put the open mic out on the TEDx. That doesn't go up uploaded to the TEDx. So I said, grand, give it to me. I'll put it up on my own channel. No, they wouldn't give it to me. So I don't have any copy of that, yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, but in the same time, the experience itself, it's something that will live with you forever. And what I get from there is that you have to practice first and foremost. You have to overcome that fear and get that feedback. And I got mixed suggestion when it comes to Toastmasters, when and when not to go there. Some people say that if you're a beginner to not get there because you'll get basically roasted. Is there any truth in that?
Sometimes it will happen. So what you have is you have a general evaluator as well. And that's the person that oversees the whole meeting. And I remember I was taking like Toastmasters, the person that hosts the meeting. So you decide the topic, and it's like a 2-hour meeting. You could have 3 speeches. You do the table topics, evaluations, and it's an enjoyable meeting. So you can have a general evaluator that oversees everything. They oversee the Toastmaster, they oversee the evaluators. And at one stage, I was the general evaluator. And an experienced Toastmaster destroyed a new guy that was actually doing a speech, maybe second speech or something like that. And I destroyed him then because I knew what he had done, and I started explaining why the other person was good and why their speech was good and everything. And the people in the audience agreed with me and said it was needed, because if I didn't do that, that person would have gone away. So what you need is, when something like that happens, you need to have some people in the audience or some other Toastmasters that kind of stop it, or they make a comment later to make the person feel better. Because unfortunately, you're dealing with individuals. There is people, they just don't know. Sometimes I cringe when I hear the feedback of some people. And I always make sure that I talk to the person later and kind of tell them why I thought it was good and make them feel better instead of crushing their confidence. So it can be bad. And the other thing on Toastmasters is it's very good to do it, but I've seen people, they become Toastmaster speakers. Like I've had even the world speakers from Toastmasters. I've had 2 or 3 on my podcast. And a lot of the time they're kind of moving to the stage. They can speak brilliant, but they're not speaking from the heart. And sometimes, depending on the club you're in and everything, you need to be experiencing other people, go to events, watch people, see what they've got. Don't follow the whole system, because there's a few people that have said that as well. They agree with me on that. It's sometimes it can take a kind of heart speech, because what happened is I was entering competitions and people would come up to me and say I'd always get past the first round, which is the club, which could be 20 people in a club. And then you go to 4 or 5 clubs to get to the next one. And I would come third and only 2 go forward or something like that. And I'd have nearly half the room come up to me. I don't know what happened there. You were the best speaker. Why did that happen? And I knew it myself. I wouldn't be confident, but I'd say, I know that was way better. And what I had to do was look at the judging criteria and go, okay, they're looking for this, and work backwards and incorporate it into my speech. And then that's how I got into the final. It was like, but still, at the same time, I don't like that. A speech should be where it's touching somebody, and it shouldn't be that you're ticking the boxes. And unfortunately, the people then that kind of stick to that, that's their process for speaking all their life. They're doing it in such a way without actually being heart-centered. Like, even if you over-prepare and you have to rehearse your speech, when something happens, like if someone's phone rings, I can make a joke about it. I have seen people halfway through a speech, something happens, they get shook, and then they have to start again, and you have to listen through, you have to go through the whole thing again. That you've just, don't be that kind of speaker. Be the speaker that a curveball, something, lights go off, power doesn't work, you can project your voice. Like at one stage, people you said to me that, oh, I can't hear you. Okay. So I was trying to work on projection. I was in one competition and they didn't have a speaker system. So what I did, and it was like a university, where it's kind of tapered up. And I said to a few of the people that I there, I said, touch your ear if you can't hear me, so I'm aware that I'm not projecting. So I ended up winning that one and going through the next round. But unless I'd done something like that, and that was me being and I didn't know that was going to be the situation. I thought I'd have a mic or I'd have a headpiece, and it was just a last minute thing. So if you get into a routine where everything has to be perfect, when something goes wrong, you're going to crumble. Or if computer fails or something like that, or the overhead fails, have it that you're able to speak no matter what.
Absolutely. And being able to improvise, to make a jokes. Or I remember I was holding a workshop in a co-working space, and it was like a Q&A session, and no one had questions. And I was like, what I do now? No one is raising their hand, no one asking questions. And I literally had no idea that you guys know so well this subject. Can you tell me something about it? And then someone on the public, oh, I actually have a question. And because they start to realize that, oh, I'm actually here to learn something and I have questions. And you mentioned there's something touching the heart, like what you have to incorporate in your speech, or if you're a guest on a podcast, or if you're doing something that needs to connect, needs to resonate with someone in order to make that connection or achieve your goal to touch their hearts.
I think one is when you're doing more speeches, to pay attention to what's resonating or listening to. If you can make notes, have a book that you're kind of writing, oh, they like this story, I can, and sometimes the feedback might tell you different things to add to it. The other thing is, with me, I've been guesting. I guest, on a few shows like this. And sometimes when you're talking, the person kind of goes, oh, and they go deeper into something that I kind of would have just brushed by just as a kind of something, a little point or something like that. I go, okay, this resonates. And just from that, you're learning that, okay, and then you can then make sure that on your own show, you're bringing that in. Or if you're on another show, that you remember a certain story and you can elaborate a bit more. So it's just kind of, the more you do it, the more you pay attention. And just even if you're in a friend setting, see what's kind of, hey, people really like this story about when I did XYZ. and just have a book, or have on your phone, notes on your phone, and just break it down. Like even for, say, the comedy, like if you're doing comedy, it's a good way of just write down the different things that you're seeing that's funny and stories that you've got, and just keep adding to it, and then play around with it. And, people aren't laughing, or it's not, lose that and build from it. It's the same with the heart-centered stuff. Okay, people are really resonating with this. People are coming up to me afterwards saying, like I remember I was like 1 year, 2 years in it, and somebody came, because sometimes people would come to a meeting, they wouldn't join, and somebody said, "Oh, it was 2 years when I came the last time and you were speaking." And I remember they started naming. I thought, wow, that's powerful. Somebody remembers my speech that I don't even remember, and they're telling me what I spoke about. So I touched them. And it's nice to know that you mightn't even know the ripple effect that you're doing, whether you're talking about health or different things, because everyone's got something that they can help the world with. And if you can help one person, it's not just that one person, they're probably helping the household, and that could have a ripple effect as well. So when you're sharing things that are good for the world, I think, know that you're actually making the world a better place, as well as a good feeling for yourself.
Absolutely. And I want to get a bit back, because you mentioned a couple of times, I see another narrative here, like getting that feedback, even when you're like, and noticing and writing it down that, oh, that didn't happen, they didn't laugh, or they laugh, or whatever happened. And the other one is the practice part. So like anything, speaking is a muscle, and the more you practice, the more better you get at it. And speaking of practice, you practice being a host so many times. Like, it's impressive. I'm really having the chance to talk with someone that has so many episodes recorded. When you start a podcast, because you managed to bring all your podcasting to the top of the top, like how you do it. But if you can start from scratch, like someone is having like no experience, you want to start the podcast, what they should do in order to start a podcast the right way?
Well, one is think what you want to talk about, first of all. You don't have to be a specialist in the field. So say my crypto one, it was more, I read books and it was but I saw corruption and stuff, but I'm bringing on people. So I'm learning a lot based on people. So you don't have to be the expert in the field. And the other thing is, before you start, you can start going along and going on shows and learning from each one. Every single podcaster has a different form, different style. Some do a pre-call, some don't. Some get you to fill out about 10 pages that you just kind of go, how long more for this form? And others are just like a 3-line thing. And then each one has a different recording system and different style. And you can ask questions. They're going to tell you. You ask them about mics, cameras, recording, and editing software. Nobody ever says, I'm not telling you, I'm holding that back. So you can even do a little tour, make notes as well, and then kind of ready. And the other thing is, just do it. I mean, there's people, they start it and then they go, all right, no, I've realized I should have done this. And they just close that one and start another, or they just kind of evolve. And most people, when they go back and look at the earlier episodes, like I even listened to Joe Rogan's earlier ones, and I was like, you wonder how he became more famous. He's going to the bathroom live and just leaving the mic on, and he's just talking about it. You're going, what? And then you look at him now and he's like number one everywhere. He evolved. He obviously realized what works. And it's better to just do it. You can evolve. You can get your lighting better. You can get your mics, get a better mic, get a beautiful, colorful green one. You just evolve, and then you go, oh, this is good. You don't even realize it. It's just little steps. You're going on different steps. And then when you get to a different level, you're then having a different conversation with people, which in turn is kind of bringing you to a higher level as well. And as you're sharing stuff, and then you can keep doing another tour as well. And you just improve, and plus guests coming on. Like, my life has improved a lot just from guests listening to them talking about health stuff that I never knew. And you're going, oh, that's interesting. Then I'll go in and get a book on it and delve deeper. And then if I hear somebody saying, just say there was somebody talking about acne and how to do it naturally and all that, as soon as you hear somebody about acne, you go, hey, you should listen to this. And you're helping somebody from it. So even the benefit of actually sharing the knowledge that would benefit them, not necessarily they'll listen to it, but some will, and they'll come back and they're really grateful that you've just told them how to, say, overcome something like acne or whatever it is. There's so many benefits from.
Absolutely. And I can resonate with a lot of those benefits for sure. And in the same time, when I talk with podcasters and looking at my own podcast and so on, most of us are struggling when it comes to growing the podcast. What are we doing wrong? What are the most common mistakes that you see people?
There's a few things, right? Because one, a lot of people compare themselves to all these big social medias. A lot of people have, say, Joe Rogan, I mentioned Murr. He was famous before he done a podcast. He was on a reality TV show. So he was famous before that. So he already had an audience. So if you look at a lot of the other people like Jay Shetty, they've got massive teams behind them. And then people are looking at their numbers, 10 million or whatever, and they're just comparing. And you're not comparing apples with apples. It's a totally different thing. If someone is going into a Toastmaster speech, just say, or any room to do a speech, and there's 20 people there, everyone would love to go in and have a conversation and talk, and people are paying attention for your speech, whether it's an hour, half hour show, whatever it is, and they're there and they're listening away. And next week they're going to be there again. Would you be happy to go back? But yet, when people see, say, 20 on a podcast or 50 or whatever, they're thinking, I'm a failure. I'm not doing this no more. And it's like, you have to just even do a search on the internet, what it is like, what a room of 20 people looks like, what a room of 50 people, what a room of 100 people looks like, what a room of 1,000, depending on your numbers. And then you'll appreciate it more instead of just thinking, it's only this. That's the first thing, is kind of realize people are saving their time. They're going out of their way to listen to your show. And there's a few things that you can do. Like marketing is important. A lot of times people, they'll prepare a lot for a podcast. Sometimes people say, I spend 10 hours editing my podcast. I say, great. How much do you spend marketing? Oh, no. And then they just go on to the next one, or they'll just blast it on their Facebook or their LinkedIn, and then they're on to the next one. That's great, but that's not really how you market it. And what you need to do is find where your listeners would be. So, for example, the Polish one. I share that to nearly 50 groups. Foreigners in Łódź, foreigners in Warsaw, Polish in Ireland, Polish in the UK, because even if they're Polish in the group, a lot of them, they're living with a foreigner and they're trying to get them to learn the language, or they have kids and they want to meet the grandparents. So I put it out to them groups, and sometimes I do shorts and put it on that. I remember one time it got 6 shorts got 10,000 views in a week, just the shorts. And because I'm in the right places. And it's not that I do it all the time, consistency because there's so many podcasts that I've got 6 shows. But if you're in the right place, and the other thing is sometimes people, they outsource the editing, they outsource the social media. That's great. What I do is I think 1,700 or something. I've edited them all. And why I do that is, one, I like to listen again because it's different when you're having the conversation as opposed to just step back. And sometimes you thoroughly enjoy the interview that you've just done because you're listening to it differently instead of paying full attention, that you can actually interact and kind of comment and stuff like that. And I make the show notes and the timestamps. So then I pass that on to the team that creates the shorts. So that is done and they post the shorts and things. But the comments as well, I pay attention to the comments because I have developed over the year, I'm doing this since 2018, the podcasting, that I know when someone's making a comment or making advice or maybe suggesting something, or I should write something else. Whereas if you outsource that, they're not at your level. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's very hard to get. You can train somebody to do that. But I think if you're really trying to build your podcast, you engage with the audience. You start listening. You watch the analytics, look at the comments and say Spotify and stuff like that. And by paying attention, you're just improving. And it's small. Like I have a color system. I track everything. I've got all my podcasts. I don't just put it on Spotify, the video on Spotify. I have it on BitChute, YouTube, and Rumble. And I'm watching, like if I put up an episode, I increase the number of shows. So I'm looking at the averages. I'm trying to increase the averages the whole time, looking at the followers. And I have a color system. It's like if it goes off 0.5%, it's yellow, 1% is green, and purple. I don't do the traffic lights, but it's close to it. I do purple up to 2%. And then I'm watching and trying to get as much purple as I can. But you'd be amazed. You go, why is that moving? Oh, I forgot to share here. And by watching it and tracking it, you're ensuring that you're trying to grow it. Like TikTok, I've got 3 channels on. One was removed because I'm heavily censored with a lot of stuff I do on The Awakening because it's exposing fraud and corruption, but with solutions. But they gave it back to me after 6 months. So combined with my TikTok, the views are nearly 1 million already. And sometimes people go, TikTok is silly. But it's not really. It's if you kind of do it right and you can use the hashtags and you can just kind of, because sometimes people are going through the TikTok and they see silly dances and stuff like that. You press it, I don't want to see this. And then you can start seeing things that you want to see. And you can actually get content from looking at people, because there's some brilliant advice on that as well. And that's just one little thing. And lately, I started doing Substack. I just said, I think Substack might help me with the awakening. I didn't want to put all my podcasts on it. And it's only got 7, 8 subscribers because I just started it. But I'm seeing 100% open rate, plus it's being shared around. I'm going, okay, this is actually working very good for me. And Instagram wasn't. I started doing it, and I still have one, but I never built it because I said, it's not really where my listeners are. It's not working for me. But I've seen some people, they can get 50,000, they can get 100,000 people on it. Start looking at the things and see where your audience is and see what works for you. And when you start doing that, then they just grow, not to try to get it to be massive. Just try to get the 1% a week, get 2% a week. Compounded, you're doubling it. And like even say the speaking one, when I done that first, I had one episode going out weekly, and I said, maybe if I do 2, I'll double it. And it tripled. I was like, okay, this is interesting. And tagging people as well. I mean, I say that to people. I say, look, I'm happy for them to tag me. So when, especially the crypto one, that X is very big on crypto. A lot of people have a big channel on that, and I can get a lot, but I can post stuff on X, get a few views. You see a few views, maybe one heart, maybe nothing. And then all of a sudden somebody puts it and you see there's, 5,000 or something like that. So because it's easy to do, I didn't say, all right, I'm not doing that no more. You go into YouTube, share an X, grand. And just keep doing things like that and compound it. It just starts working, and just pay attention to the comments. Say the Polish one, I had a beatboxer. He was on my speaking podcast. He was 16, and I was impressed because you have to be 18 to start join Toastmasters, but he joined under his dad's name, really kind of energetic. I said, so I got him on. He outdone a load of the famous guests. So sometimes people think, I get the famous guests, I'm going to get millions of downloads. That's not how it works. Sometimes people think, I'm going to get loads of people. Well, listen, yeah, you get a spike without a doubt. But people think, say, I've had Mickey Willis or I've had David Icke on. People think they're going to share it to their platform. Sometimes they do, but usually not. They're just trying to tap into your audience. And sometimes it's the unknown person is so grateful for being on your show, they'll share it a lot. And so my speaking one is that beatboxer that actually done it. And on the Polish, he did the beatbox for me. So I put that on the intro and the outro. I thought, okay, this is cool. Done a beatbox for the thing, Polish podcast with a beatbox thing. And I had it for a few years. And then I just thought, this didn't really serve me. So I said, I removed it. And the amount of comments that thanked me for removing it. Oh, this was cringeworthy. I'm glad you got rid of that. And I was like, I wish they had told me earlier. And sometimes people are telling you things like that. They're telling you, or if you look at the analytics, say, for example, the awakening, I was looking at the analytics. I started getting into sovereignty because I said, I know earlier, like how I lost everything. And then I said, how are they able to do this? So I started learning about common law sovereignty. And then I had guests on and talking about that. I was like, oh, people really like this. So now I make sure I have 1 or 2 a month guests on that. I'm still doing the other stuff, but I'm making sure that becomes a part of my show. And sometimes people, they're not even watching these things. And it's, so if I talk about X, people really enjoy that. So bring on more people talking about X. And that's what I did. I'm looking at, okay, people are enjoying this. Let's kind of delve deeper into that. And all these little things will help your show. And before you know it, all of them have been in the top 5%, 4 got to the top 0.5%. They go up and down, they go out. Like I've so many know that I'm not as consistent. Consistency definitely helps. If you've got 2, do it on a Monday and a Wednesday or say whatever. If you can do that every day instead of haphazardly, it works better. It's to your advantage, because the ones I listen to, like I listen to Blind Boy every Wednesday morning, I know it's there. So I was doing that with the Polish. The Polish one was getting it's got over, with the audio and the video, over 3 million views. And I think it was because that one was one that I always had going out at midnight on Monday and Wednesday. So people would know, hey, I'm going to get a new episode. And not everyone does that. I'm guilty of it. Sometimes life gets in the way. Sometimes I can get a lot of stuff out. Other times I can't. But with the Polish one, I was always doing that because they were shorter episodes. It was easier to do. And I encourage anyone that has maybe 1 show, maybe 2, if you can be consistent when you're putting out the shows, whether it's 1 episode, 2, the listeners become aware of that, and it will definitely help you.
There are lots to unpack there, because You mentioned so many great things, and I agree. Like, you have to experiment, you have to see, you have to analyze, you have to get things, you have to put it in front of people. Because indeed, I'm guilty of the lack of marketing. I'm a marketer. I know it's funny. Like, I'm a marketer, but I market more other things and not the podcast itself. And obviously, this is visible. And I'll definitely start doing it more. And the insights that you can actually put it in certain groups that people get interested in that topic and so on. It's also very interesting that I thought always that, oh, it won't be cringy to just share my podcast to a certain group, but people are there for that topic, right? So they crave that information and you have it. Why not share it? And also what caught my attention and surprised me that you're still editing your podcast. And especially when you have so many, how do you manage to do it? Like, I have a single podcast and it's a lot of work.
I kind of evolved. So at one stage when I started first, I was using Audacity, taking out the pause fillers, just removing ahs, ums, and long spaces and everything. Eventually then I was and then I'd upload it, then I'd listen again, make sure it's okay before I press release. Taking a lot of time, but that was all right because I just one show. And then as I was adding more and more, I kind of started compressing them a bit, stopped doing that as much. Didn't like say intros and outros. At one stage I had some intros and outros and I realized, hey, I'm watching people and they're just skipping it. So there's a percentage of people that skip it. Do we really need it? Because we listen to it and we go, okay, we listen to some of the shows and that's the way they have it. It's like, do we really need that? Are people actually, if they're listening to your intro and it's kind of the same all the time? So no, what I do is I have my green screen and I just say, hey, you can find me here, scan the QR code, blah, blah, blah. And then I go introduce the guests. It's like what you do when you started saying about me. Straight away, you're kind of talking about what it's going to be about. So that's one thing early to let people know what this is going to be about. Because sometimes a guest, and there's a lot of podcasters even, they're co-hosting it and they're just chit-chatting, shooting the breeze for 5-10 minutes. They're gone. And because I help people as well. That's one of the services I do. And I told one guy, and he was a doctor and a friend. And I was like, hey, nobody cares what the weather's like in Canada. And he was like, but I'm able to say that in a way that I wasn't hurting him. And people then go, oh, my numbers are going up. Because you have to, do you want to be listening to that? If you're going, this is you have to make sure you're giving value, you're pumping, and, just remove the fluff. And it's not saying that having an interest, because sometimes you can mention something that's not just to get to know the person a bit better. That's okay as well. But grab their attention, not just talk about nothing special. And that way, the listeners are kind of engaged. You're all every time I'm having a conversation, I'm always thinking of the listeners. So sometimes a guest might say a certain wording or, everyone's got abbreviations. I know what it means. And I just say, so can you explain what, because I want to make sure that the listener isn't lost. And because if they're lost, then they're kind of not really engaged and then they switch off and then they're scrolling their phone. So you make sure that you know what the different levels of the people are that are listening. And by doing that, they stay engaged, they start sharing. And even say Spotify at the end of the year gives you all the how many people have been following you. And I remember seeing so many people in number one. And I was like, that is such an honor that people vote me as number one on their podcast. And there's so many podcasts out there, big shows as well. And you're going, wow, or you're in the top 5. And then when you go to the top 10, you see massive numbers and you're going, that's so nice. And even if you're just starting off and it's 1 or something like that, you go, wow, there's one person I'm their number, or it's 10, doesn't matter. But it's just to appreciate these little things. And another thing, what I do say with the marketing is, and I encourage it with some of the people I've worked with as well, and they were feeling kind of, I don't really want to do it. And I just said, when you get a win, so when you're in the charts, there's different platforms. So I know when I'm number one in different countries. I've been in number one in a load of countries. But even if you're new in some country and you're number 20 and number 150, share it. Share all the different things. When you get to a certain number of views, share it. When you get to a certain number of followers, share it. Because then there's times that I would do things like that and people would go, I just got curious and I really like your show. Even people because you think at the start, the people that are going to start listening and following. I remember my brother didn't listen for years. I was saying, hey, you listen now. And now he's telling me about different ones and he's listening to the way. He's a fan now. But it's like you think sometimes it's your friends are going to be listening, and it's not. And there's another thing that what happens, and I highly encourage people to pay attention to this one. Sometimes when people are setting up a YouTube channel, they write out, "Hey, I've set up a YouTube channel, please subscribe." And they reach out to everyone to subscribe. And what that does, they're not your followers. They're not your fans. They're not going to be watching your content. So when you blast out something, algorithms like goes out to your subscribers and it's like, man, no engagement here. So it's hurting you. So you're better off growing it organically, slowly, instead of kind of getting to a stage like, oh, I've got 200 already, and then trying to build from there. So, and you can do that with all your different platforms. Don't. It's like, it's nice when your friends come in, sometimes give comments and thumbs up, and they got your back. I do that with all the people that I know. You know that if someone is trying to do a business, you're giving a bit of support. But with channels and stuff like that, where it's based on watch time and things like that, be careful. And sometimes people are buying numbers as well. You can go away and buy 1 million views and go to people, hey, I've got 1 million views. It's not 1 million views. It's a bot. And you're better to have 100 views that are genuine than doing that. So, like, you know, because sometimes it's like, what's the end game? And what I would say to people as well, because sometimes people are kind of, they think, oh, I'll set up a podcast, I'm going to become a multimillionaire overnight. And kind of go in for the long haul, have it mission driven. I prefer when it's mission driven, but have a plan as well how you're going to try to monetize it and cover your costs at least. But don't just kind of go in willy-nilly and then just expect the sponsors running at you and money coming in, because a load of podcasters, they do 3 episodes, they're gone. They do 10 and they're gone. And don't be one of them. Like, come in and have a plan. I tell people, aim for a year at least. And then you just enjoy it so much. Like when you start having conversations with people you've never met in your life and you're like, this is brilliant. And you start learning from each other. And it then becomes more about the show than what I can gain out of it.
Exactly. And what's your long-term plan? Because your portfolio is so diverse, from learning Polish to exposing corruption. What's the common narrative between your podcast and your goal with them?
Main thing is kind of everything is mission driven. So for example, the speaking one originally was, don't go through my journey, kind of, you know, people that were coming on were telling you how to become a better speaker. But then it became about authors and everything. So it evolved as I went along. The meditation, I was listening to meditation when I kind of was losing everything, and guided meditation. And then stuff started became, it disappeared or you had to pay for it. I was like, no, I want meditation that's free for people. So I had meditation from 1 minute to 2 hours, breath work, but also conversations with people. So that was a mission driven one. So irrespective of how many episodes I get out, or if I ever decide, hey, I don't need it, they're going to be there to help people. I kind of promote my own businesses. So when I'm on it, I just mention what I'm doing. So without kind of pushing anything in my forms, I've got, hey, are you interested in doing this? Are you interested in starting a show? Are you interested in sponsorship? People hit the box. I'm never trying to sell. People just put up their hand and say, I'm interested. For me, I've often thought it is a bit of work doing the 6 shows, but I enjoy them. I'm learning the whole time. Like, I have on my phone, before I used to buy the books for people coming on, and I'd say, all right, I want to read this before. And then I said, hey, I'm promoting you. You send me the book. And people say, oh, I'll send you a PDF. I said, I want to get away from technology. I want the book. If you don't want to give me a book, you know. So people send me the book, and I'm reading books that I would never buy, and I'm thoroughly enjoying them. And so there's a benefit of that as well from the podcasting, that you're learning something, and then you get the guest on, so you can then question them on stuff. So I'm making the notes as I'm reading the book, and then you're engaging with the person. So there's that benefit. So I think it's tried to make a world a better place, especially the awakening. That's really one that, like sovereignty, trust, different things, how to break out of the system. I'm learning myself constantly. Even the Podfather one, that's the one that, and you've graciously agreed to come on that, which would be brilliant. That's one where I'm helping existing podcasters, and I'm learning. Like, I know so much. I've read so many. I still take a course, just even if I can get one thing from it, so I can help my clients. It's like there's always something that people is. The guests that come on, everybody's got something. I'm learning something the whole time, and then I've people writing to me going, that was brilliant. I didn't know that either. So, but if you're, say, podcasting, sometimes people, they just do it and they go through it. But are you actually buying podcasting books? Are you listening to shows that are giving little tips and things? And then not only are you listening to it, but are you making notes that you start applying it? And if you just, not just my one, I mean, there's a load of shows that do that, but I know that if you apply every single thing from the shows that I've done, your audience will probably double, triple, because they're all little things that go, oh, I like this. Everybody's got something and they're getting success from it. Say there was someone on YouTube and they were saying, release it on the 14th minute. She's got over 3 million views on her YouTube channel. Release it on the 14th minute or the 29th minute, because the way the algorithms work, everyone's usually posting it on the hour, so it goes loads out. But it's every 15 minutes they're saying that does it. She claims that's what works for her. I use different tools like TubeBuddy, vidIQ, and I'm trying to get the title and stuff like that. Sometimes you see, oh, this works, sometimes it doesn't. And I'm just constantly learning from people and going, okay, what is it that you do? Sometimes I hear a software I've never heard of and I go, and it doesn't, sometimes things I go, this doesn't work for me. But just being curious and just, it's like a business. Like if you've got any business, sometimes people are just chugging through it and just, hopefully a client will come my way. But if you're actively reading marketing books like Glazer Kennedy or Frank Kearns and all these different people and looking at what they're doing, and then you start applying it, then you start getting the clients. But we tend to, I've done 20 businesses. Like I usually kind of start reading the marketing books again. I've got one book is like 303 marketing tips. I usually read it from start to scratch when I have a new business, because your head is in that space. You're not thinking of that when you're, and it's the same with the podcasting, go through these things and start making a list and have a checklist. And until it's automatic, then take it off your list when you know that you're automatically doing these things. But be active when you're listening to something, make a little note and then do that. And then just see the results. So, for example, like I said, there's a few things don't work, and they work brilliantly for somebody else, and well and good. But like Threads, there's a few people come on now that said Threads is brilliant. I said, okay, I'm going to try that. I didn't get around to it. I kind of set up a Threads, but there's some people, they have got a lot of business from Threads and everything. And so you might listen to that episode and go, oh, I must try that. And you could be consistent and you could do 10 times better than me, because I haven't really given it the effort. But if you write it down and push it and don't do it in such a way, you go, this one works for me. This is where my listeners are. And that way, then all these little things will help. They bring in some funding to help you with it, and you'll enjoy it more.
Absolutely, absolutely. And on top of that, while learning and doing it yourself, we always need external help. If someone is in that position and they need your help, where they can reach out to you so they can get help with their podcasting and business?
So it's my name is roycoughlan.com, and I usually have got the different services. So what I've actually set up on Minette as well, because I said sometimes people, if they want me to start from start to scratch, that's grand. I can do that, different levels, and take them through. I even created a course that they can do the course, and I cover everything in it. So if they prefer that, do it at their own pace. And with the Minette, they can ask me an SMS, they can do a video, or they can do a 15-minute call. And they might just want to do, hey, I just want to get as much information as I can in a 15-minute call. And that's okay as well. It's like, you don't have to sign up to do a full package to go from, A to B, and say like existing ones. I'm listening, I'm going in and looking like, I've changed people, I've told people, change the graphic, do this, do that. And they're like, eh. And then they're going, oh, that makes a big difference. It's like, for example, my one's like, I have speakingpodcast.com, meditationpodcast.org. I use the name of the title. And then the colors as well as grabbing people's attention. There's so many things. There's so many little moving balls. And when I am working with people, what I do is I give them my WhatsApp number, because sometimes something comes up and I make sure that I respond or I give a voice message. Okay, just do this, do that. Because sometimes someone might say, hey, I want you, like one not so long ago, the person wanted to do a presentation. They wanted the podcaster to do it. And I said, no, because then they're going to go next slide. And there's a few things, there's a load of things, whether it's contracts with co-hosts and groups and how to do it, loads of different things. And I also the pace, because sometimes people are A players, they just want to go boom, 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 boom. No bomb, I can go boom, 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 boom. Some people want to take a week just to get the graphic right. That's okay as well. I go at the pace that you want. It's not that I force my system on people. So it's like roycoughlan.com. They find everything I'm doing. I got virtual assistants there as well, that if they're looking for virtual assistants, I offer that as well.
Awesome. And if you're listening, you can find the links as well down below. And Roy, I'd like to conclude with something. Let's go back in time, and you, from today, meet young Roy that just lost everything. But the problem is that you have just 60 seconds with him. What will be your piece of advice for young Roy?
Meditate, breath work, be present in the moment. Don't concentrate on the lack or what you've lost. Concentrate on what you have and what you're going for. Don't look in the rearview mirror, look forward. And by just being breathing and present, you'll enjoy life more, and you forget about the past, and you'll be moving forward, and you leave it in the distance.
Beautiful. This was Roy Coughlan on Authority in the Wild. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much.